How would you characterize the stakes for your presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, as we prepare to go into the proceedings of the election tribunal? How high are the stakes for him?
Well, the stakes are high, but the facts are pretty clear. I mean, why we're in court is that we're in court seeking the application of law to the facts. Most of the facts are not disputed, some are. And whichever way the court will have to look at those facts as argued by lawyers and then apply the laws to it. So, for example, the facts that are not in dispute are, one, Tinubu did not get 25% in the FCT. So it will be interesting to see how the court apply the law to the facts. Other facts that are clear is that, of course, can be disputed, is that the IREF, the INEC did not upload the presidential result real time on that day in the IREF. Another fact is that INEC, long before now, had told the world, I mean the video and the clips everywhere, that this time around they were going to apply the electronic transmission of results. And then midway in the sports, they decided to change the rules. So we see how the court applied that. Then also another fact that has not been disputed is that there is a passport that emerged attributed to Bwala Tinubu, not a Nigerian passport. And so the court will have to then tell us whether that is okay. And then, of course, another fact.
Yeah, but that's not included in the application you made to the court.
But in the reply to their response, it was mentioned. So one thing about law is that if you did not institute something, but if your opponent by reply raises that issue, you also have a right of reply to that. And then, of course, but that's not even the major issue, but whether, having not said it in the form he submitted to INEC, whether there is a case of perjury. What we are, because we had a lot of people saying, PDP is quiet. Is it that PDP has resigned its fate? No, it's because PDP is strategic, and PDP knows very well at this time it is not just about rocking the boat. It's about adjudication. So what is our concern about the adjudication? Is a known fact that in Africa, anytime a case is taken to court, the governing party and the government in power will always want to do everything that they can to either intimidate the judges, to induce the judges, to manipulate the process, or to confuse the people. So at that stage, what do you do? The options are two. One is to become problematic in the country, like creating chaos everywhere, which to us is not the path to entrenching democracy. The other one is to gather a global consensus, because that's the whole idea of a United Nations, is that nations of the world subscribe to an agreement that is codified in charter, in convention, in treaties, in agreement, that the common thing that binds us together, one is the rule of law, adherence to due process of law, non-interference in the institutions of the state. And to be able to do that, you will need the world to look at Nigeria and see whether or not we are obeying the rules. Now, here is our problem, which is why we began to engage international media. We have seen over the last few months how the government of the day is using an institution of the state called Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation to intimidate commission, to intimidate media houses. Sometimes I wonder whether the Broadcasting Commission has legal department, or even the media houses have legal department to know their rights. But you see, international media are not bound by the Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation that or commission that will always bring draconian military rules in a democratic state to say that you cannot express yourself. For example, the election has been decided. I mean, the election has been conducted, right? A president has been selected by INEC. That's their preferred candidate. Now, we are in court to say that it was a rigged process. As long as there is no final determination of the matter, we have every right under law, equity, and justice to hold the opinion that we express.
Absolutely.
That he is a president-select and not a president-elect.
And that tantalizing prospect of a really disputatious battle in court has drawn considerable international media attention. And you've been talking to media organizations, and they seem keen to cover those proceedings?
Yes, they are. In fact, very much willing. What they have asked is whether, as requested by the Nigerian Bar Association, whether the court is going to permit the live coverage, which
Right.
as of today we are not sure. Most likely the court may not agree to it. They will just feel that it is an open court. They may agree to the first day or the last day. But transparency is what we are looking for. And that's why the idea of litigation is that the court must be an open court to the public. So, but they are keen to cover it. And they are also motivated by the fact of the various reports that the international observers gave after they observed the election in Nigeria. I mean, apart from African Union and ECOWAS, which understandably because of the geo power that Nigeria commands and the idea of seeking currying favor from the government, they will have to say, we think the election is all right. But all other international body, their conclusion is that the process was not transparent. Their conclusion was that there were violence and all of that. So that becomes a subject of interest to the international media and government, and that's our prayer.
Yeah, but is there a sense, though, that given how divided and polarized politically this country is at the moment, that live coverage might be pouring petrol on those fires?
Not really. Because for example, there is no activity in the court that will result in altercation. It is only when there is altercation or expression of certain inflammatory comment or statement, which the last place to see or to hear is in the court of law. By our very discipline and our training, we communicate fact. Even if we are communicating disaster, we communicate it in a way that it will rather cool the temper rather than increasing the problem. So anybody who is seeking for that as excuse to say that once there is a live coverage, then there is the fear that the Nigerian people will react one way or the other, I think it's a fallacy of generalization. In fact, you can look at what Obasanjo did when he came to power. He set up a commission called Oputa Panel. That period, a lot of people thought that Oputa Panel was going to set Nigeria on fire. But that actually brought healing, because people were able to see how their views were being expressed by people.
Yeah.
So that's what we need, transparency. Now, here's the point. And I heard the speaker that just finished, my good friend, when they talked about the fact that because you are in court, shut up your mouth until the court decides. Sometimes I wonder whether this, anyway, it is understandable. When you are in APC, you have to be out of your common sense to do certain things. Otherwise, the fact that you're in court does not take away your constitutional right of expression.
Absolutely.
As enshrined in the
Freedom of
Constitution.
expression.
Yes. What you cannot do is to say, this is the strength or this is the weakness of the case. Even as a lawyer, it is our duty, wherever we are, where subject of the court issue comes, for us to clarify. So we are not going to shut up. And what we are saying, it is pretty clear. We have the utmost confidence in the judicial system in Nigeria. I have spent all of my life in the last 8 years that I defended APC to say that the institutions of state can function optimally if the political leaders have their heads correct. Now, what we are saying is the government, the ruling party, should not use what is commonly known as the instrument of blackmail, which is used to preserve power, to intimidate the judges. What are the ways they can use? They can start by inducement. And they have their ways of doing it.
But those are allegations.
Yeah, that's what these are possibilities. But
you can also do the same.
Right, but then the point is, because I was asked this morning that the opposition too can intimidate the judges. I say, how? Do we formulate policies? Do we enforce policies?
No, we're not talking about it. We're talking about inducement. I mean, you can, because it's the same
thing. Anybody can do that.
For example, when an election is taking place, vote buying, anybody can vote.
Right. But in this case, because you heard me saying something like intimidation, instrument of the state.
Yeah.
When you make effort to induce and the people decline, the next thing they do usually is to bring up the dossiers, because they have the infrastructure to know the past of these people. And if that fails, then they begin what in the 48 laws of power they call isolate and eliminate.
Well, to be fair to them, the APC and all the rest of them, those are allegations that, I mean, there's no proof to support that. That's what they're trying to do. But I do agree with you that
it's not even an allegation. I say possibilities.
Potentially, they can do it.
Right.
They've got the power to do it.
And they have a history of doing it.
Well, they have suggested, though, that the biggest mistake the PDP made was to allow Peter Obi and Rabiu Kwankwaso to leave the party. Otherwise, victory would have been the PDP's today. So the splinters fractured your chances. That's the point they're making, and indeed that's the point that President Buhari made.
That's pantophobia. You know, it's an expression of ignorance to the greatest respect. Now, let's take it on the evidence of their statement. You say because we have splinter group, that's why we didn't win. So what is the result as is presently argued? If you go to IREF, as I speak, the result of finally uploaded on the IREF is markedly different from the result as announced by INEC. And if you go by that result in IREF, APC did not win. So the fact that there were splinter groups and people left us has still not been able to stop us from winning the election, which is why we're in court to prove it. Now, the issue of overconfidence, the president was quoted to have said the opposition were overconfident, that's why they lost the election. I mean, is he a court of law? How did he arrive at that overconfidence? Is it through intelligence? Is it through security briefing? Is it a perception? Is it, you see, what they call overconfident was that throughout the campaign of all of the political parties, PDP was well coordinated in communicating in clear terms our plans for the Nigerian people. It was widely accepted. We got report from policy analysts and from economists that this manifesto, although not perfect, but all of the manifestos, this present a clear path. Now, because we communicated effectively, they call it overconfidence. When they were fighting, pointing fingers at each other. That's number one. Number two, I am not surprised. I said this morning that the president is making a lot of overtures to Tinubu because it is believed in quarters that he didn't support him in the primaries. The man got it anyway. He didn't support him in the election because they say he used Naira policy. So now that he has lost out on 2 grounds, he might want to do everything possible to please him so he can have a post-presidency peace of mind. So
I like that.
I won't be surprised because this is not the character of Buhari.